Hey guys, how's it going? Master Cow here, and today I'm going to be doing the second video for my 2021 NFL offseason recap series, the New York Jets. So after a 2-14 season in 2020, the Jets fired Adam Gase as head coach. Pretty much everything that could have went wrong under Adam Gase went wrong, as a lot of people expected would happen. But there's a lot of hope on the horizon with the Jets bringing in Robert Saleh, the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator, as the replacement for Gase. He brings a lot of energy and leadership, which is definitely something that the Jets organization needs, and hopefully it'll work out. His offensive coordinator will be Mike LaFleur, who he knows well from San Fran. He was the passing game coordinator under Kyle Shanahan, and now he gets to be the full-time play caller for the Jets. Defensive coordinator will be Jeff Ulbrich. Ulbrich was the linebackers coach / co-defensive coordinator with Raheem Morris in Atlanta last year, but after the Falcons fired Dan Quinn and promoted Morris to interim head coach, Ulbrich became the interim defensive coordinator. So the Jets free agents that they were able to retain, you've got safety Marcus May, who was franchise tagged. So it's worth $10.612 million. May did pretty well last year as the primary safety after the Jets traded away Jamal Adams, and GM Joe Douglas said that retaining May was going to be a priority, and they've been working on a long-term extension, but they're not considered close yet, and we got about 5 weeks left for that, 5.5 weeks left for them to negotiate a new deal. Running back Josh Adams was brought back as a restricted free agent on a one-year deal worth $1.18 million. $300,000 of that is guaranteed. He's been a key backup for the Jets the past couple of years on and off the practice squad, plays some special teams as well. Tight end Daniel Brown was re-signed to a one-year deal worth $1.04 million. Didn't get anything guaranteed. He's a key special teamer as well. Receiver / returner Vincent Smith was re-signed as a restricted free agent to a one-year deal worth a hair over $1 million, just $70,000 guaranteed. Safety Bennett Jackson was re-signed to a one-year deal worth $875,000 with $100,000 guaranteed. Receiver Jeff Smith was brought back as an exclusive rights free agent, as was cornerback Kyron Brown, who missed all last year due to injury. However, the Jets have since cut him. So the Jets' main free agent additions, their biggest one was edge rusher Carl Lawson, former Cincinnati Bengal. He was signed to a 3-year deal worth $45 million, up to $47.4 million. $30 million of it is guaranteed. Lawson doesn't have huge sack numbers, but what he does have are very good disruptive numbers. He basically averages 2 quarterback hits per game. He has a lot of pressures. And he's created a lot of sacks for teammates over in Cincinnati. Wide receiver Corey Davis, former Titan, was signed to a 3-year deal worth $37.5 million, $27 million guaranteed. He's been kind of disappointing as the number 5 overall pick back in 2017. However, he is coming off his best season in the league, and the Jets are hoping that he can take the next step with them. Defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, former first-rounder of the Saints, was signed to a 2-year deal worth $11 million, up to $17 million, and $4.5 million guaranteed. His stock has kind of gone down because of that Achilles injury that he suffered in the 2018 playoffs. They limited him in 2019, and he wasn't really fully healthy last year either, but he says he's healthy now, so we'll see if he can kind of get back to where he was ascending to in 2018 before the injury. Another former Saint, cornerback Justin Hardy, was signed to a 3-year deal worth $6.75 million. Just $1 million of that is guaranteed. Hardy hardly ever plays defense. He was signed because of his special teams ability. He's one of the best punt coverage gunners in the entire league, and that's something the Jets gunners were not very good last year, as the Jets have fallen from one of the best special teamers team units back in 2018. To being below average, and they're hoping to get that back on track. Linebacker Gerard Davis, former first-rounder of the Detroit Lions, was signed to a 1-year deal worth $5.5 million, up to $7 million, and the $5.5 million is completely guaranteed. Davis fell out of favor with Matt Patricia, and the Jets are hoping that with Saleh, that Saleh is able to utilize his talents better, because he does have speed and he's decent in coverage. Former Jaguars receiver Keelan Cole was signed to a 1-year deal worth $5.5 million, $5 million of which is guaranteed. Cole's been a pretty good contributor for them the past few seasons as a former undrafted free agent, and he was a bright spot for the Jaguars last year, but they elected to move on, so the Jets added him for depth, which has been a problem for the Jets receivers last few years because not only do the Jets not have great starting receivers, they have very limited depth, and oftentimes they've had to start a bunch of replacement level receivers because of injuries, but now the Jets have a much deeper wide receiver core. Former Chargers interior offensive lineman Dan Feeney was signed to a one-year deal worth $3.5 million, and $3 million of that is guaranteed. Feeney was signed to be the backup center for the Jets. He was one of the worst centers in the league last year for the Chargers. He also has some experience at guard as well. Safety LaMarcus Joyner was signed to a one-year deal worth $3 million, up to $4.5 million. $2.5 million of it is guaranteed. Joyner was pretty good as a safety his first 5 years in the league with the Rams, but he has struggled the past 2 years with the Raiders, who tried to convert him to slot corner, and that didn't work out. And the Jets will be hoping that moving him back to his natural position will be able to lead to a bounce-back year. Former Bill and Bengal Tyler Kroft was signed to a one-year deal worth $2 million, up to $3 million, $1.5 million guaranteed. Kroft was a disappointment of a free agent signing in Buffalo. He was injured in year one and didn't make much of an impact in either of his 2 years with the Bills. His best season was way back in 2017 with Cincinnati, but he's a good blocker, and he's got size to be a red zone target, so that's a pretty reasonable price. Linebacker Delshon Phillips, former Bill and Falcon, was signed to a 2-year deal, basically a minimum salary contract. No guaranteed money there. Depth piece special teamer. Edge rusher Vinnie Curry was signed to a one-year deal worth $1.3 million, up to $2 million, with $1.075 million guaranteed. Longtime Eagle, 1 year sandwiched in there with the Buccaneers in 2018. Curry, even though he's pretty up there in age, can still get after the passer pretty well as a rotational pass rusher, and he's also a good leader for the locker room. Running back Tevin Coleman was signed to a one-year deal worth just $1.1 million, up to $1.9 million, $400,000 guaranteed. Coleman's stock is also way down following 2 injury-ravaged seasons with the Niners, but he knows the system, and he can be productive when he's on the field, so this could wind up being a steal of a signing if he can stay healthy. Edge rusher Ronald Blair was signed to a one-year deal worth $990,000, nothing guaranteed. He was just recently signed this past week by the Jets. Another Niner, so a guy who knows Saleh's defense well. He hasn't played since the middle of the 2019 season when he suffered a torn ACL and then had a setback, which required another surgery, and that cost him the entire 2020 season. Offensive lineman Corey Levin was signed to a one-year minimum salary contract, depth piece. He's bounced around the league a bit. Titans, Bears, Patriots, Broncos. And then 2 waiver claims, both of them from the Niners, receiver Matt Cole and running back Austin Walters, who plan to be special teamers. The Jets had one really notable release, and that was defensive lineman Henry Anderson. Anderson had a breakout year after he was traded from the Colts to the Jets in 2018, but hasn't been able to replicate that 7-sack season in 2019 or 2020. He did have some good games in there, but overall that was a disappointment after the Jets re-signed him, and so they released him, and he signed a 2-year deal with the New England Patriots. Receiver Josh Doxson, former first-rounder of the Washington football team. He opted out last year, and the Jets released him. Kicker Chase McLaughlin, who was the kicker for the Jets' Week 17 game, was waived, and he was claimed by the Cleveland Browns off of waivers. Linebacker Sharif Finch, who was on the practice squad before getting promoted, also a former Bear and former Titan. And then offensive lineman Leo Kolomatanji, former Lion, he also opted out last year. The Jets' free agent departures, guard Pat Elflein, who was a mid-season waiver claim from the Vikings, signed a 3-year deal with the Panthers to be their starting left guard. Edge rusher Jordan Jenkins signed a 2-year deal with the Houston Texans. Edge rusher Terrell Basham signed a 2-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys. Quarterback Joe Flacco, who started 4 games for the Jets last year, signed with the Eagles. Brashad Perriman signed with the Detroit Lions. His dad played for the Lions, I think, 10 years in the league, so that's nice for him. Neville Hewitt also signed with the Texans. Offensive lineman Josh Andrews signed with the Falcons. Arthur Maulet, who was a corner before switching to safety towards the end of the season, signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Safety Matthias Farley signed with the Tennessee Titans, as did defensive lineman Trayvon Coley. Tight end Ross Travis signed with the Arizona Cardinals. The Jets declined to tender two restricted free agents, Harvey Lonke and Frankie Louvu. Lonke signed with the Patriots, who he was with before he was with the Jets, and Louvu signed with the Panthers. The Jets had one really notable trade, and that was trading away former number 3 overall pick Sam Darnold away to the Panthers. In return, the Jets got a 6th-round pick in 2021, along with a 2nd-rounder in 2022, and a 4th-rounder in 2022. So we all know Darnold's struggles in New York. He missed 10 games due to injuries and mono. Really underwhelming play, but also bad coaching with Adam Gase and whatnot. Really lackluster supporting cast. No running game. No protection from the offensive line. Just the Jets as an organization completely failed him, and we'll be hoping for and we'll see if he gets a fresh start out in Carolina. And he'll have a chance to play against the Jets in Week 1 of this season. Jets draft picks this year. The Jets drafted Darnold's replacement with the 2nd overall pick, taking BYU quarterback Zach Wilson, a guy who brings great decision-making, really good accuracy and mobility. Durability and the competition he played are the concerns that he has coming out of college, but we'll see if the Jets can do a better job of supporting him than they did Darnold. The Jets would then trade up in the 1st round to take guard Elijah Vera Tucker, 14th overall, guard out of USC. Vera Tucker's been a staple on the Trojans' offensive line for the past few years. He's played all over and has been excellent everywhere he's played, and he's projected to be the starting left guard for New York. Receiver Elijah Moore was taken with the 2nd pick in the 2nd round out of Ole Miss, one of the more dynamic players in all of college football last year. And he's a guy that the Jets envision being kind of their Deebo Samuel of their offense. Running back Michael Carter was taken the 2nd pick of the 4th round from North Carolina. Linebacker Jamien Sherwood was taken with the 2nd pick in the 5th round. Defensive back Michael Carter II was taken with the 10th pick in the 5th round, former Duke Blue Devil. Cornerback Jason Pinnock was taken with the 31st pick in the 5th round. Linebacker Hamza Nasiruddin was taken with the 2nd pick in the 6th round. Cornerback Brandon Eccles was taken with the 16th pick in the 6th round. And defensive tackle Jonathan Marshall was taken with the 23rd pick in the 6th round. The Jets have not signed any players yet to extensions. For injuries, safety Saquon Hampton was placed on the reserve non-football injury list. He was promoted from the practice squad towards the end of the season with the Jets, but unfortunately in the only game he was able to play in, he suffered a torn Achilles, and so he's expected to miss all of this season. Okay, so my thoughts on how the Jets offseason went. As a Jets fan myself, I think JD had an excellent offseason. I think he addressed a bunch of positions of need. He brought in some really good players, and I think his draft could end up being really, really good. So looking at the positions of need identified, there's a lot of them. So quarterback, obviously, upgrading from Sam Darnold was Zach Wilson. Running back was definitely addressed with Coleman and Carter. Interior O-line, to a certain extent, it was addressed. Trading up for Elijah Vera Tucker, it was costly, giving up 2 third-round picks in order to get him. But if he turns out to be great, then it'll be worth it. And then Feeney, as far as depth goes, the right guard spot is not yet solidified, and we don't have a long-term answer at center yet. So I'd say that was somewhat satisfied. At the wide receiver, that was definitely addressed with 3 big name receivers: Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Keelan Cole. And so the Jets' top 5, arguably top 6 receivers, I think is really, really good. Defensive end, yes, that was definitely addressed with obviously Carl Lawson, but also Vinnie Curry and Ronald Blair. Linebacker, yes, that was addressed. Obviously, they'll be getting C.J. Mosley back from opt-out, and then they drafted 2 linebackers in Sherwood and Nasiruddin in the late rounds who could compete for starting jobs right away. Cornerback, to this point, the Jets have not added a veteran cornerback, and there's still some guys available like Richard Sherman and Steven Nelson. The Jets also did not take a cornerback high in the draft. They elected to take 3 cornerbacks in day 3 of the draft in Carter, Pinnock, and Echols. So the Jets will be basically competing with a bunch of their young guys there, although they could still bring in a veteran. Safety was also definitely addressed with bringing back May and also taking a flyer on Joyner. For the secondary needs, I mentioned right tackle, potential long-term replacement for George Fant. The Jets did not address that position. Tight end, to a certain extent, yes, you got Tyler Croft in there, and also undrafted free agent Kenny Yeboah is a guy that there is some hype around, and he could possibly, and if he has a good camp, he could maybe end up being a starter. And then I mentioned safety again on secondary needs, and that was likely because I didn't feel like Ashton Davis was ready to be a starter, and so I guess you can count that with Joyner there. And then I also threw out kicker. The Jets brought in an undrafted kicker, Chris Nagar from SMU, along with bringing back Sam Ficken, and it sounds like those two will compete to be the starting kicker. It's kind of been a revolving door since the Jets elected not to pay Jason Myers after his outstanding 2018 season, and I guess the Jets will be hoping that maybe that Nagar, who has a really good leg but has some accuracy questions, might be able to establish himself as the long-term kicker. Otherwise, the Jets will have to look for a kicker again in the next offseason. So my grade for the Jets offseason would be an A-. Not every single need was addressed, like corner, for example, adequately. However, most needs were addressed. I think the Jets got significantly better at a lot of different positions, and I think more importantly, the quality of coaching is going to be a lot better with Saleh and his group in there. And who knows, maybe the late round guys wind up being steals. Like we're already hearing reports out of OTAs that Carter II has been taking first team reps as the slot corner, and if he as a 5th round pick is ready to start right away and play well, I mean that would obviously be really good. So again, concluding with the projected starters for the Jets, quarterback Wilson will be the week 1 starter almost certainly. Running back, it'll probably be right now between Coleman and Carter. Left tackle, definitely Mekhi Becton, who will hope to build off of a pretty good rookie season. If he can stay healthy, that'll be the key. Vera Tucker at left guard. Connor McGovern will hope for a bounce-back year at center. Right guard is a completely wide-open competition. There's up to like 4 candidates, I think, that could start there. Between Greg Van Roden, who was last year's starting right guard, Alex Lewis, who was the starting left guard last year. Feeney could possibly be in the mix there. Cameron Clark, 4th rounder in 2020, and also Tristan Hoge, an undrafted free agent signing out of BYU. All those guys could potentially be in the mix to start at right guard. George Fant will be back at right tackle. Wide receiver will be Davis, Denzel Mims, and Jamison Crowder. Although again, expect Cole and Moore to get a lot of playing time. Tight end is also pretty wide open competition. The likes of Chris Herndon, Ryan Griffin, Yeboah, and Croft could all push for starting time. Defensive line, the Jets will be shifting from a 3-4 to a 4-3 scheme. So it'll be Lawson, Quinn, and Williams. Williams is recovering from a broken foot, but he's expected to be ready for training camp. I think Rankins will start. Foley Fatukasi is the better run defender, but Rankins is the better pass rusher. So it technically might be Fatukasi that actually starts, but Rankins might get more playing time. Off the other edge, it's probably a competition. I'd say Vinny Curry is probably the leading candidate to start, but I'd expect the Jets to rotate a lot of guys there between him and Blair and Kyle Phillips and Bryce Huff and whatnot. Jabari Zuniga. Linebacker will be Gerard Davis. C.J. Mosley, we'll see how he does. He missed most of his first season with the Jets because of injury, and he opted out last year, so this is a huge year for him to prove that he can still play. And then the third linebacker spot is kind of an open competition. Blake Cashman is a candidate to start there, but as are the 2 rookies, Sherwood and Nasir Al-Din. Cornerback is kind of an open competition as well. Right now, Bless Austin and Bryce Hall are the 2 projected starting outside corners. I'd say Hall has got a safer hold than Austin does, but we'll see. And then the slot will likely be a competition between Javelin Guidry and Carter II, who, as I mentioned before, Carter II has been impressing so far. And then safety will be May and will be LaMarcus Joyner. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next offseason recap video.